Namaste. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Anamkara meditation program. With all my heart and with all my love, I welcome you to our program this evening. I'm just delighted you're joining us and coming with the fullness of your being and the commitment to practice and that the power of practice that you bring and share in our program. So thank you for being that kind of presence here and now and on this planet right now, because we need more and more people awake to what's beyond the mind and all the things the mind gets caught in and contracted by. And meditation is a practice that brings us home to the truth of who we are. So this is also a time where we take refuge in the practices and we take refuge in the highest truth, the fullness of being, the divine essence of who and what we are, and to gather together and do that. And we're gathering in this field of consciousness. So regardless of how distant we may be, some people in the West Coast, some people in other parts of the country, somebody in Hawaii, we're together in that field of consciousness, because that's where our unity is. That's where the truth of our oneness is. So this mind, this body, this life that we lead, it's a projection of the infinite into the domain of the finite and the differences that seem to appear there. But it's all rooted in one, in only one, the truth of who we are. So we do the practices in order to know that fully. We've spent lifetimes knowing what this instrument is capable of in terms of dividing up unity, experiencing differences, having reactions to differences, liking some things, rejecting other things, being annoyed by some, chasing after others. Well, that's all the drama of the mind, lost in ignorance, lost in the ignorance of not knowing the truth of that oneness, that unity consciousness. That's what drives the whole show, because in that oneness, there's absolute fullness. There's total abundance. Nothing is lacking. You encompass all because you are all. And when I say all, I mean everything. All of creation, all of everything around you, all into space, galaxies, the whole universe is the body of the one that is the essence of who you are. Knowing that, that transforms the mind. It gives us a foundation of steadiness. Ordinary steadiness for the mind means just, this desire or this pain was taken care of for a moment. No, we're talking about a totally different kind of steadiness, peace, that is absolute because it's the fullness of being. It's not conditioned. There's no conditions that have to be met. That's what we come to know when we go past the mind. The mind's still going to be the mind, but also as the practices transform the mind, purify the mind, clear it of that wrong identification that all I am is this little thing, lacking this, wanting that, wishing I had more. When we start to get clear of that, then even the mind finds a new kind of steadiness. It becomes transparent to the light of the truth of who we are, the light of that divine essence. And we can call it Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness, Holy Spirit, Shekinah, has all different kinds of names, but that transcendent one, that's the essence of it all, beyond names, beyond forms, beyond religions, beyond philosophies, but knowable. That's the key. That was the key that the ancient yogis discovered, that though this transcendent state of consciousness that is the state of our infinite being, the state of the sort of capital S self, well, it's a state of consciousness. It's consciousness itself. So it's self-illuminating. It's self-knowing, but in a totally different way than the ordinary mind. So the mind has to become still. Think of the mind as a linear processing unit. It goes through, it gets little moments of this and that, a piece of data, a piece of information. It tries to cobble things together and make a whole out of that. But that's not the wholeness of being that we come into through the practices and through knowing. So especially times when life is so tumultuous because of what's going on in the world, but also when times are calm, when times are good. Yogis disciplined their practices to embrace all and go beyond all. The pleasures, the pains, the sorrows, the joys, everything. To know what is that essential truth of our being nature. Then, knowing that, we walk it into the world. We walk it into the world for the benefit of all beings. We walk it into the world that is in desperate need of that kind of true knowing, that kind of wisdom, that people are chasing after things, destroying the planet and each other out of desires that are, again, driven by ignorance. So everyone has this innate capacity to know this. Nobody's more divine, less divine. We're either more aware or less aware. And the more aware we become, the more we become transparent to that essential nature of who we are, the truth of who we are. So that can just be walked into the world in our everyday lives, whether we're going to a grocery store or driving down the street or interacting with people or loved ones. You have that radiance. That's the truth. That's the truth of who you are. So we gather together, do the practices in this, what's called satsang. Satsang means keeping the company of the truth. Now, what's the truth? Your highest nature. The truth of your fullness. The truth of your magnificence. Beyond imagining. The mind, in its wildest imagination, cannot conceive of that infinite one that is who you are. That's why we have to shift states. Ordinary waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. The three states that really are what makes up, for most people, their entire lives. They visit three states and then they check out. Well, but there's a state beyond that. That's the state of Turiya, the state of meditation, the state of unity consciousness that we are innately capable of. And that transforms then the waking, dream, and deep sleep states. So when we do just the simplest practice of meditation and engage in that, we're embarking on this profound journey in the moment, a journey that's been called the hero's journey. We leave the ordinary world. We go into another entire domain, the domain of consciousness, there to discover greater truths about the fullness of our own being, the fullness of every being, the glorious nature of all. And then we come back carrying that and better informed by that, better empowered to walk that truth into the world, to live that truth into our lives and into our relationships. So that's what we're doing, even in a simple practice when you sit for meditation each day, right? It's a profound, profound practice. So the ancient yogic text would talk about having that attitude of approach to practice as an important component to doing meditation practice. Because we approach it with that kind of reverence, that kind of awe, that we're connecting to the infinite here and now. Even with just sitting in our living room, slowing and deepening our breath, doing some practices, the ordinary mind, it keeps intervening. Ordinary mind makes things ordinary. So it takes even a sublime, heroic practice like meditation and just makes it ordinary. Can even make it drudgery. Can even make it something it's resistant to. So we have to keep setting aside the mind, looking past it, deconditioning those kinds of thought patterns and letting them go, replacing them, cultivating the kind of attitude we want that helps us to know the exalted nature of our own being. How are we going to know the exalted nature of our own being if we approach the practice of meditation, which is the practice of knowing that, with some other attitude? So attitude of approach is critical. How we sit each day. How do we approach that practice? How do we set up our environment for meditation? Does it reflect whatever our sense of what that exalted one is? And that might be a simple puja table. It might be a simple flame, a candle, that symbolizes that living flame of the infinite, the divine, here and now, before which we sit, and into which we're going to dissolve into that light of consciousness. So it can be as simple as that. It can be more elaborate. I like lots of images and archetypal forms that I've experienced the essence of. But other people, they don't care. That's fine. There's not a dogma. Oh, you have to do it this way. How is it for you? How do you then experience that magnificent nature of the divine and have it represented in your life, represented in your practice as you sit to meditate? That you're cultivating that attitude of approach, and that your practice is a noble practice. Oh, noble. How do you sit? Nobly. It's an attitude that then also begins to inform, how that practice of meditation, well, the practice of meditation includes all of yoga, right? So when Patanjali, a great sage, somewhere around, roughly 2,000 years ago, give or take a couple hundred years, codified what was already a oral tradition as the Yoga Sutras. Well, he delineated these 8 limbs of yoga. That's the name Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga. And it's interesting, these days, the practice of yoga is often used more as a physical health kind of practice. And so I've met many people when I say, oh, meditation, and they'll go, oh, I do yoga, but I don't do meditation. Unfortunately, that means you're not doing yoga either. Yoga without meditation is just exercise. Yoga means union. The entire set of practices has one aim, to know the infinite as yourself. That's it. So everything about it, whether it's asanas that we might do at a yoga studio or breath work and pranayama, they're all aimed at setting aside the obstacles of mind, old patterns, old conditioning, everything, so we come to know the fullness of being. So all of the limbs of yoga, of Ashtanga yoga, culminate in direct knowing. And so when we sit to practice meditation, as we do here this evening, as you do at home, well, right away, the first 2 limbs of yoga, the yamas and niyamas, the observances and the restrictions, well, that's part of the practice. We're already sitting here practicing those things automatically. So those 2 limbs that have to do with nonviolence, that have to do with practicing peace and contentment, these are already built in to just that sitting practice. So meditation was seen as the complete yoga practice in and of itself. You move from the yamas and the niyamas to the next limb of yoga. Well, that's asana, that's posture. And posture here refers to what's our sitting posture, what's our meditation posture, right? That's on the outer level, what we mean by posture. So we adjust our posture, we develop a steady posture. Because part of what the practices are aimed at is how do we calm the mind down so that the mind is always jumping around between this thought, this feeling, that memory, that another memory, something about the future, all this stuff. It's all about calming it down. It's all about bringing that to a calmer state. That's why Patanjali talked about it using the analogy of ripples on a pond, and that when the ripples are there, you can't see through to the ground, to the depths of the pond, right? So the mind, full of those movements and ripples, needs to be calmed down so we can see into the depths, the foundation of being, the infinite nature of who we are. It's always there. It's only obscured by all the movement of mind. So it's developing a steady posture is critical. It's a foundational practice, developing that steadiness, right? And so asana is part of that posture, both on an outer level, but then there's the inner level. And the inner level is, it's a posture of awareness, right? Because our ordinary posture of awareness is the ordinary mind. So we're practicing stepping back from that. So stepping back means witnessing, detached awareness. It's a posture of awareness that's not engaged. It's not engaged in all the content of the mind. And by content, we mean everything from sensations, from the body, things that are happening in the environment, everything, internal, external, detached, non-reactive. Non-reactive also means non-judgmental, because being judgmental is just another form of reactivity. So that inner witness state watches with equanimity. Oh, it watches with compassion and patience. It's just watching the stream of the mind go by. Not jumping in and mucking around with it, just watching. That witness starts out as a part of the mind. That's the sattvic, the balanced, steady part of the mind. But it is becoming aligned with the true witness, the infinitude of being, your sublime, divine self. That's always here, always now, always looking at the unfolding of creation, the unfolding of you as its sublime emanation, witnessing that with loving compassion, with wisdom, with actual joy, delight, rapture. One of the irreducible qualities of that infinite nature is rapture's joy. Another one is that loving compassion. Another one is that kindness, that wisdom as well. So the witness isn't another name for the mind being a quiet judge. No. It's really the way the infinite looks at you, with this love, with this embrace. It sees its own self in everything about you, every cell in your body, everything that moves through the mind. It doesn't judge it because it's, look at that. That's Shakti. That's its power of consciousness, taking on forms. Took on the form of the body, takes on the form of the universe, takes on the form of your thoughts. When we can truly witness from that perspective, when we become the seer who's never seen, then we're resting in the truth of our being. So the posture of awareness is directing us towards that. And then if we're doing breath, well, the natural breathing that goes with profound relaxation is to just to slow and deepen the breath. And then it comes into this beautiful rhythm that the body recognizes as a sort of opening to profound relaxation throughout the body. If we're chanting, there's a natural pranayama that happens with chanting. You inhale, and then you might go the om, and then you inhale again, and then it's the nama, and then you inhale, and it's the shivaya. That's if we're chanting Om Namah Shivaya. I bow to the auspicious one, that divine infinite essence of who you are. So mantra and breath form this extraordinary practice that is altering and changing what's going on physiologically. We know from research it changes what's going on neurophysiologically, and invites us to come into that steadiness, to step back from the mind, even if it's moving, even if we haven't stilled the mind. That doesn't matter to the seer, to the witness. The witness watches from a place of fullness of compassion, fullness of wisdom, fullness of love. It's how it looks upon you and itself as all it is. So that state is then opened further and further as you go through these limbs of yoga that are all part of simply sitting to meditate. This is all wrapped up in this profound practice of sitting each day to meditate. It's a practice that has been described in these profound ways for thousands of years that millions of people have engaged in and opened the doors to knowing the infinite directly for themselves. Because that's also the focus of yoga, is direct knowing, not relying on a scripture or somebody else or a saint from centuries ago. You, here, now, have the full capacity of knowing that, reveling in that, delighting that, letting it course through your body and walking it into the world for the benefit of all beings. So when we move past the limb of pranayama, then we go to the next limb that Patanjali talked about, pratyahara. Pratyahara is withdrawal of the mind from the senses. So we're actively pulling our consciousness in. It flows out throughout the day, throughout the waking state. It's flowing out through our eyes. It flows out through our ears, our touch, everything. It's consciousness engaging in the reflection of itself as world. But now we're going to turn all of that energy in, because that energy is Shakti, it's consciousness. So what we're doing is, instead of leaking it out, we're building the power of consciousness. So it helps to further decondition things about mind and body, set us free, remove obstacles that we're not even aware of, that exist on different levels in the subtle body. So this flow of consciousness, this flow of Shakti, as we're withdrawing it and bringing it in, is then doing that purification work. Purification means getting rid of any obstacles, wrong understanding, wrong ideas, conditioned patterns, conditioned emotional patterns, conditioned patterns of thinking about who we are. All of that, it can dissolve, set us free, and set the energy that was bound up in it free. So from pratyahara, we go into the next limb of dharana. And dharana is where we're starting to focus. So it's a practice of, now our attention has been withdrawn, we've calmed the body, or we've smoothed out the breath. Our attention is drawn inside, and now we're starting to focus, right? And what we'll be doing tonight, and what we're often doing, is, especially in the Shakti traditions, we use Shakti as mantra. Mantra is a throb of the infinite. Mantra is known as the divine in sound form. So we don't just practice focusing on just any thought or a sound or a particular image. We go to an instrument that's been given by the infinite to help us go beyond the mind. That's what mantra is. That's why mantra means that which protects. What is it protecting us from? Oh, the vagaries of the mind, identification with the mind. So if we're fully absorbed in Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, means I bow to the auspicious one. The auspicious one. Oh, that's the infinite. That's your true nature. So by coming into alignment with that, by giving our focus to that, we become more and more absorbed in that. We become more and more one-pointed. Now, it starts out that, oh yeah, the mind is still active, and we might get in one repetition of mantra and then, 20 thoughts. Oh, I'm thinking. Now I come back to mantra. That's okay. That's how we whittle down the number of thoughts and get our attention stabilized. It takes time to stabilize our attention, to stabilize the mind. Because typically we're not seeking to do that. Most of the day, for most of our lives, it's been given free rein. It's like a wild dog without a leash. It's all over the place. So we start to reel it in. Well, that helps empower the mind. That gives it greater strength, greater focus. It's not dissipating its energy everywhere. So now more energy is available both in everyday life when we want to focus on something. Our mind has become more skillful at focused attention. And when we want to focus on the infinitude of being, we're not trying to reel the mind in from all different directions to get it to go there. We bring it in. We lock it onto mantra, onto Om Namah Shivaya, onto the throb of consciousness that is mantra. That's what then takes us into the next step of dhyana, which was the more formal notion of meditation. of that one-pointed, continuous awareness of the object of focus. That's what leads to the last limb of yoga, of samadhi, both what was called savikalpa samadhi and nirvikalpa samadhi. Savikalpa means with a vikalpa, with a thought. Here the thought form is the mantra. When we dissolve that, when we dissolve the mantra, the repeater of the mantra, and the source of the mantra into one, that's what Shakti does. It absorbs the mind into mantra. Mantra dissolves into source. Om Namah Shivaya gives up its sound form. Om Namah Shivaya gives up its thought form. And draws our limited awareness into the boundlessness of being. Dissolves it in the source. Because the source of mantra is also source of mind. When you dissolve into mantra, and then mantra into source, into the infinitude that's beyond words, that's where you end up, in this boundless, self-luminous field of consciousness, suffused with love, suffused with compassion, with wisdom, with rapturous joy, with unshakable peace and equanimity. That's the truth of who you are. That's who we keep company with. That's what you keep company with in your meditative practice. That's what you keep company with throughout the day as you keep coming back and use mantra as a japa practice. Japa just means repetition of mantra, but with the awareness of I am that. I am the infinite one. I am. The root awareness, the root sense of being. I am. Boundless being. Not I am a man, I am a woman, I am this body, I am the roles I played, I'm the history this body went through. Not that I amness. That's I am then identified with everything that comes after I am. Strip away everything, I'm home to simply I am. The awareness of simply being. So that then suffuses our awareness. We become more and more transparent to that. We become more and more capable of continually sensing that presence, because it never disappears. What happens in ordinary waking state mind, we become so identified with limited ideas and thoughts, habits of mind, that we completely have forgotten about our infinitude of being. But over time, being drenched, being dipped in the ocean of consciousness, that is the practice of meditation, we come out dripping with that awareness. We come out saturated with that. We come out dyed by that. And we live that into the world and into our everyday lives. So that's what we do. So this very simple practice that might be just having a nice place to sit, sitting upright, comfortable. If one isn't able to sustain an upright posture, well, try bolsters and enough, cushions that makes that comfortable. If that still doesn't work, one can lie down. Takes a little extra vigilance of practice to stay conscious when you're lying down. I went through that a couple of different times with back injuries, where for several months I had to meditate lying down. And I had to retrain my mind that lying down is not a sleeping position. It's a meditation position. But it's doable. The mind is infinitely trainable. So when we train it with diligence, with love, compassion, then it becomes the true servant it was meant to be. The servant of your highest self, not the servant of this feeling, that desire, this other thing. What's symbolized in the yogic system as the 3 lower chakras. That's what most people's minds are in service of. Instincts, possessions, what they want, power, will, all those things. This instrument is so sublime. It is such a gift. That's why the yogis, the Buddha masters, they're always like, a human birth? How sublime. Because this is capable of knowing and serving, becoming transparent to the infinite and walking its boundless love. It's boundless compassion, it's wisdom, it's grace, it's equanimity, being free of reactivity. And walking that into the world helps other people see it's possible. This is why we love being around somebody like, Thich Nhat Hanh, or, somebody who really embodied, fully embodied, and then walked that into conflict, ended a Vietnam War, right? By embodying the fullness of these qualities and walking it into the world, wherever he was. Talking about peace is every step. It's every breath. Oh, it's every thought. Oh, it's every beat of your heart. That's what we come to know by coming to rest in the truth of who we are. So what we're going to do tonight now is take a few minutes and we're going to chant the great mantra, what's called the Maha Mantra of Om Namah Shivaya. And again, it simply means I bow to the infinite, I bow to the auspicious one, the truth of who you are, the truth of what all is. And it's a Sanskrit mantra. And when we chant it, you'll see there's a natural kind of pranayama, natural kind of breath that goes with that. As you inhale and then chant a syllable like Om, inhale and then chant Nama, inhale, chant Shivaya. We're regulating the breath. When we're doing that, we're doing a profound yoga practice that has actually a great deal of research now behind it, scientific research, showing how it changes us neurophysiologically, physiologically, changes the immune system, changes inflammation in the body, all these like very practical benefits. The yogis didn't care about that. They wanted to know God, and that was that. And everything else would be taken care of. So we get absorbed in that and come to know the fullness of our own being. So we'll chant for a few minutes, and then we'll just sit in the stillness, in that silence. And again, being aware. Part of the foundation is a steady posture. It's a commitment that when we sit, we're going to become immovable. No matter what arises, we refuse to move with it. It has no meaning. It has no grip on us. No matter what the impulse of mind, whatever the impulse of body, we're just going to witness, watch it go by, not be involved in it. Doesn't matter. It's good, it's painful, it's pleasurable. We just watch them all go by because we're practicing steady awareness. We're practicing becoming immovable. We're practicing becoming aligned with the unshakable peace and equanimity that is the truth of who we are. So we don't want to belie the truth of who we are. We become aligned with it. Yes, we can see those things arising in body and mind. We just don't have to act on them. We're free. It's part of how we become free. We become free of reactivity. We become free of the automaticity of the mind by letting go and letting go. It's coming back to breath, coming back to mantra. Whatever arises, that's it. And we can even simplify it for meditation. Make a very simple mantra of aham. Ah, as the breath comes in. Hum, as the breath goes out. Ah, as the breath comes in. Hum, as the breath goes out. It simply means, I am. I am. Nothing after that. I am. The infinitude of being. I am. That's where that mantra arises from. Become absorbed in that, and you leave everything else behind. You'll be there when you come back. But we leave it to know the magnificence, the freedom of our true nature. So we can live that more and more in all the states of consciousness, waking, dream, deep sleep, and the meditative state of absorption in that. So we're going to chant Om Namah Shivaya for a few minutes and then just sit in that gift of profound stillness and awareness. Just watching. Awareness detached and at ease. Just watching. Watching with love and compassion. Watching the mind as it silently says, ah, as the breath comes in. The mind silently as the breath goes out. The mind holding the awareness, I am unbounded, I am free, I am the one. breath by breath, we let go of the mind. We let go of all the content of the mind. We sit in that stillness. We sit in the posture of awareness. We sit in the seat of the witness who just watches, unmoved by movements of the mind, untouched by movements of the body. The witness, the seer, has never seen the truth of who you are, the fullness of your being, boundless and free. Come to know that. Come to rest in that. Just watching all that unfolds, watching the mind. As the breath comes in, as the breath goes out. We end with this prayer, and may all our practices truly benefit everyone, and may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. And namaste. Taking refuge in the truth of who you are, truth, what all is. It's essential, divine nature. Knowing that, knowing in its fullness. Taking refuge in practices. Calm and steady the body. Transform them. Open them. Making them clear, transparent to your sublime nature. Walking that into the world for the benefit of all. So all our practices serve all beings, for all beings are ourself. Only one, only one. So we keep coming back to the fullness of knowing that through the power of practice, the power of mantra, a throb of the infinite that can dial us into that throughout the day. Give the mind a place of refuge. It's completely portable. Anytime, any place. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Kali Ma. Aham. Always available, always throbbing, always pulsing within. Mantras were first heard within. They continue to be heard within. As we deepen our meditation practice, we'll hear them arising spontaneously. The infinite, throbbing, pulsing with the consciousness of true knowing becomes subtle enough, the mind refined enough so that it hears that, so that it knows that, so it can revel in that, so that it can know that rapturous, ecstatic union that is the culmination of practice. So, thank you for being ones on your path, unfolding the truth in yourself and your life, walking into the world, automatically benefiting others. The more awake and conscious we are, the more we're pulling out of all the drama and adding to the energy that most people do, to all the reactivity and the violence. Pull it out. Show there's a different way to be in this world, to walk in this world, to walk with love and compassion, truth and fullness, generosity. That's what unfolds through practice, through knowing, true knowing. So thank you for being ones doing that and being committed to that and walking it into the world. So I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Jai Ma, Jai Ma.